We now welcome ESPN analyst and Georgetown Hoya, Monica McNutt, to the show. Monica, let's start with Breanna Stewart. Yeah, I got to give you a little love in the Georgetown Hoya stuff. I got to give you a little love.
I appreciate it.
It was just a little love. But I want to talk about Breanna Stewart, who is out with a left foot injury at least until the start of the playoffs. How does her absence affect the Storm's approach over the next week?
So Stewie obviously is a former MVP in this league. She's putting up 20 and almost 10 at 9.5 rebounds per game. Yes, it's an absence. But if any team was best equipped to sustain an absence, hopefully over a short period of time, as we're not sure if she's going to play in the playoffs or not, it would be the Seattle Storm, because they've been there, done that, and they operate like such a well-oiled machine. I think back to last year when Sue Bird was down and Jewel Lloyd stepped up, and you also had Jordan Canada step up. So this is a group that I think will be okay in the interim as we're down to the last couple of games of the regular season. Mercedes Russell has had a tremendous year in terms of taking the next steps in terms of her improvement. Now, RJ, don't get it twisted. You would much rather have Stewie on the floor as opposed to not to, but I think this team is going to be okay, and hopefully it's precautionary and she's able to get on the floor once the playoffs start. Yeah,
whenever you have an MVP or a former MVP, you want them on the floor. But talking about former MVPs, Elena Delle Donne is also out for the Mystics right now as she recovers from back surgery. Now, look, the Mystics are clinging on to the 8th and final playoff spot with 2 games to go. Now, what are the chances that they can make this postseason with Delle Donne out for the foreseeable future?
So Friday, 7 p.m. tip, I believe, right here in D.C., they will play the New York Liberty, which is the team that's right behind them in the standings. And this ball game, honestly, Richard, could be for all the marbles. Both teams have 2 games left, but this could be the one that ultimately serves as a tiebreaker in terms of that 8th spot. The thing with Elena, basketball fans, of course you want to see her on the floor, but this is an injury that's not just keeping her off the floor. This is kind of altering her life. We're talking about some nerve issues surrounding some of that back surgery that she's had. So we want her to be able to do basic things like walk and just enjoy being a person, let alone get on the floor. So Coach Thibodeau has talked about not ruling it out, and he's like, I'm not giving you media speak when I tell you it's literally day by day, because there are some days where she's up and some days where she's down. So it's going to be a tall task. But I tell you what, Tina Charles is playing MVP form. I don't know if she's going to get the nod because the Mystics are so far back in the standings, but this is a team that is gritty, scrappy, and they find a way. Technically, they shouldn't have beat the Chicago Sky on Sunday when you look at which team had their players on the floor, and they found a way to get it done.
No, they did find a way to get it done, but this weekend, I want to talk about 2 WNBA legends that entered into the Hall of Fame, the 1999 MVP, Yolanda Griffith, and the 3-time MVP, Lauren Jackson. For those of you who are not as locked into the WNBA as Monica, what should we know about the legacies of Griffith and Jackson?
Oh, man, RJ. So you got to know that Lauren Jackson obviously hails from Australia, but you talk about the beginning of the league, and you talk about players that were dominant at their position in ways that we had not yet seen yet. Lauren Jackson obviously gives you tremendous size, and I think of some of those iconic battles between her and Lisa Leslie, but she's a 3-time MVP. Her skill set was so well-rounded, she literally was a tenet and a foundation for the Seattle Storm to go on and be all that they were. And then, of course, Yo-Yo, who is also a coach at Boston College these days. I mean, that Sacramento Monarch squad has so much swag with her point guard, Tina Pinachero, and she was just a tireless worker. And it's been so cool. In particular, I mentioned Tina Charles, who has climbed up the ladder in the WNBA rankings for all-time rebounds. She mentions those players as players that she modeled her game after. So it's super dope for her in real time to be crushing their records, but also giving them their flowers. They both were super deserved.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.